Howdy again, it's tubalcain, and I'm at my 12-inch Atlas Craftsman lathe, and this is video tips number 234, and I'm going to cover the carriage saddle on the Atlas Craftsman lathe. And in the last few videos I covered the various parts, including the compound rest, and in the last one the cross slide, and today the saddle. And I've already covered the apron before, but in order to get at the saddle and take it off and examine it, I will remove real quickly the compound and the cross slide, the apron, and the lead screw. So I'll do that all off camera, and I'll slide the tailstock off too, so it's all stripped down and we can take a look at the saddle. I've had this lathe apart so many times it's getting to be pretty easy, but what a nice way to review the parts now. Here's the cross slide, and of course the apron, and then the saddle. And all of these parts together comprise the carriage. But let's take a closer look at the saddle itself. Before I talk about the saddle, I really haven't mentioned much about the lathe bed. And the lathe bed is the main frame or the backbone or the spine of any lathe. And it runs clear from one end to the other. Well, that's pretty obvious. But all the various components on a lathe are fastened in some way or another to the bed of the lathe, and that aligns everything. Now, this is a flat way type of bed, but most lathes have V-ways, and the V's help align the headstock with the tailstock and the carriage. And the bed is very rigidly made so that it virtually can't twist or flex in any way, and it's mounted in this case on some rather short legs or a pedestal on each end that can then be fastened to the bench or to the legs. But that is the bed. Take good care of it. You get bad nicks or bad wear on there, and you'll have nothing but trouble and difficulty in holding dimensions. Atlas Craftsman lathes are often criticized because the bed does not have the V-ways, and it's just flat, and that it cannot be quite as accurate as V-ways, but some of that is arguable. But it's definitely a cheaper way to build a lathe, and they're really the main manufacturers that use the flat ways, the flat bed. Notice there's all kinds of stiffeners in here. All nice gray cast iron, but it is soft and prone to wear and easy to nick. This one is in particularly good shape, with only one bad nick someplace in here, probably caused by somebody dropping the chuck on there. But over time, with heavy use, the bed or the ways on a lathe tend to become sway back, so that as the carriage advances into this area, sometimes it dips down a little bit, and then it's hard to hold a dimension. But this one is, I believe, one that has had very, very little use, as it's pretty much pristine other than the discoloring that you see. I have surmised that they got the name saddle because it literally rides the bed like a saddle would a horse. And then you can see this will slide easily back and forth on the bed. Now on the back side there's a set of gibs. So let me see if I can get around that side and show you the gibs. And the purpose of the gibs is that it prevents this from rocking or twisting in this motion, and maintains this cross slide here in a perfectly perpendicular manner. We don't want it to twist even a half a degree or some minute amount, because it has been machined so that it's perpendicular. So these gibs are adjusted just right so that it's easy enough to move it, but yet there's no play. Now on the back side of the lathe here you can see that there's the tag with the serial number, the model number on it, and here are the gib adjusting screws on the back side. These two bolt holes, I believe, are to fasten the taper attachment, if I remember correctly. Also, from the bottom here, there's a plate both on the front and the back that is bolted up there, and I'm going to take this off so you can see that, and that keeps the saddle from lifting in any way vertically on either side from the bed. So there's 1, 2, 3 bolts on the bottom and 4 gib screws. The Atlas lathe has 2 wipers, 1, 2, on each end, also here, and the purpose of them is to wipe the chips away and to spread the oil and to keep the bed clean, the ways clean. And I'll take one of those off to show you here in a minute, but I would like to attempt to take the entire saddle off, just sliding it off here without removing the gib or these plates that are underneath. So let's see how that goes. There it is. I just slid the entire saddle off the end of the bed and it came off freely, but I made sure that there weren't any nicks or corrosion or anything down there, so it came off quite easily. And these are the 2 plates that are gripping the underside of the bed. I don't know what you call them, but you got one here on the front and one on the back. And if you look at it from this view, right here, you can see where the ways of the bed go. And here's the wipers and those 2 plates. Quite a nice casting. And under here you can see the gear that I showed you in the previous video, and that is the gear that allows a power crossfeed. Here is the thread chasing dial bolted on to the saddle, and the alignment dowel pins that were talked about in a previous video as well. Here's the wiper held on with 1 screw, and they are L-shaped. You can buy replacements if you need to, reasonably, but you could also make your own if you could come up with some felt of that thickness. And these are oil soaked, and they're supposed to be oil soaked. Looking at this now, you can see the gib, and it's a flat gib. It's not tapered, just a flat piece of steel, and it has the 4 gib adjusting screws here that are made pretty much similar to the ones that you see on the cross slide. And that's set just right, so I'm not going to do anything with that. But now you can see the importance of getting oil on the bed or on the ways so that this is lubricated, so that both this doesn't wear as well as the ways themselves. And the problem here is that the ways, or the way wipers rather, tend to wipe a good part of the oil away before it can get in here where it needs to be. Now on the closing lathe and some other lathes, you're going to find that there are oilers here. Right here and here, and then on the other side too, that allow that oil to come directly onto the ways. I think there's also a reservoir or some oil grooves. I'm not sure, I forgot what it looked like, but I had considered drilling holes here and putting a Gitz oiler on the top side there so that it could be oiled. In other words, a retrofit. And I may still do that at some time, but not right now. This little steel part is the carriage lock. If you turn it over now, you can see that that's the carriage lock. Now in some cases people back these off and that carriage lock drops off and it falls down into the apron and it is assumed lost, and they're wondering why they don't have a carriage lock. So don't back that screw off such that this drops loose. It's just a simple piece that could be remade, but it just clamps the bottom of the bed or the ways to prevent movement of the saddle. There's just a little bit of paint here, so I'm scraping this. Probably wouldn't hurt anything, but I just soon have everything perfectly clear before I before I reassemble it. So I'm going to scrape all of that off, just a little bit of debris on there, I'll clean this out on the other side with a clean rag and a little solvent on it, then re-oil it, and then I'm ready to put it back together. This has all been cleaned thoroughly with solvent and a clean cloth, and now I'm just putting a little bit of this 20 weight non-detergent on there. That's mainly what I use on the lathe for general lubrication. Just on that surface, and I'll spread it around real well. Like that. Some on the pins. Remember that gear down in there was oiled the other day with gear oil. Now this is Way lubricant. This is Clausing brand, and I've got some South Bend brand around here too, but I can't find it. But notice this is good for bedways, slides, flat bearing surfaces, and so on. And I'm going to oil this in here with my finger. A little brush would probably work real well. And note that this oil appears almost sticky. And that's why it's so good on a bed. It doesn't come right off. So I'm oiling that thoroughly on both sides. Wish I had my little acid brush. And if you don't have this, just go ahead and use regular oil at 20 weight, but this is better. Hard to find. You can find it on the internet. And then I'll also, with the same oil this, and on the edges, underneath, and then I'm going to put the saddle back on. Everything has been thoroughly lubricated. That was a little tricky, and I did in fact have to loosen up the gib just a little bit to get it on. And then I tightened it back down. And it slides nice and easily. And I'm ready to start buttoning it back up again. But that's what the saddle looks like underneath. That's it, it's all reassembled. The entire carriage again, consisting of the apron, the saddle, the cross slide, compound rest, tool post, and tool holder. That being done, this video is finished, and in the next video in this series, and that'll be about number 14 in this Atlas series, I'll cover the tailstock, and as simple as it looks, it bears a little bit of instruction and has a few interesting things about it. So this is tubalcain saying so long for now, and be sure and watch my 500 other shop videos.